What if food shortages got really serious? What if water stopped flowing fresh? Think of Jackson. What if all of a sudden our dollar started crashing? Look at the stock market. It's went down $7 trillion. So all the people that were wanting to retire, it's going to be tougher. What if all of a sudden your fuel stopped where you couldn't heat your home or drive your car? Think of the Nord Stream pipeline. Things happen. So we talk about these scenarios, and all those things could pretty much happen just in a snap, only because we are in a volatile time with any of those situations. No fear, just reality. Let's talk through goals and aspirations you should have as you walk through what if something happens tomorrow. Today's video is going to be a good one, and it starts right now.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know.
Well, it is a beautiful fall morning here. We've got the fire going. We just had breakfast outside. We hear the chickens clucking. Anytime we do these videos, please understand our goal is never to promote fear. Our goal is never to say you've got to quit living your life. We have a very high respect for the reality that we're in. To any scenarios we want to be prepared for. That's what emergency preparedness is about, or prepping is about, or self-sustainable living. Our goal is always to grow our food on farm and to take care of our family, but to also enjoy just family time sitting by the fire. So we are the Max. Thank you so much for being here. Go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. It does help us get our message out. Share this content with someone who you think it could help. Our goal when we talk about these videos, as I said in the intro, is not to scare you. It is to maybe just wake you up to the point of reality and how serious it really is. Not pertaining to watching mainstream media, but understanding that there are some things that could possibly go wrong. We're in a volatile time. So let's talk about some of the things that I think you need to look over and make sure you have some preparedness ready just in case. We're getting into fall season. We're getting in the cool season. It's the first day of October here. Our goal is to make sure we're always prepared for anything that comes our way. So let's walk through it. First and foremost, for any of those scenarios we talked about, from a grid collapse, from water shortage, food shortage, to where you're preparing for a hurricane, you're bugging in, you're bugging out. Guess what that takes? It takes planning. You need to develop plans. If you are elder and you can't bug out and you can't be in the wilderness fending for your food, that's okay. So then you plan what is best for you. You say, okay, I can stockpile food. I can have water storage. Just like down below, we have a food grade water storage that would be very good for you to look at, especially if you're in tight spots where you can't do big drums. You could do stackable water gallons. Very, very cool. So check that out. But you need to be prepared for those things. Nothing will work for you if you don't have a plan. And that's with anything. So if I'm doing something around the house, or I'm planting a garden, or I'm raising animals to slaughter, there's a plan involved in that. We want to make sure that we plan each detail, because then that helps us stay to the plan. And if we're off the plan, then we know there's an issue. We need to get back to the plan. So for instance, if you know there could be some issues with you, if you live kind of like Florida's going through the hurricane, again, we're praying for those people that live in the way of that hurricane. But if you know you live in hurricane areas, bug out survival is probably key. Not only that, having some kind of hurricane shelter is key. Having some kind of tornado shelter is key. Having some ways to put up water and food is key. We see in East Europe and some of the areas that are dealing with fuel issues. We think of the Nord Stream pipeline. Could it be terrorist? We don't know. Could it be sabotage? We don't know. It could have been just a leak. But ultimately, that will cause issues for heating and having the utilities and the energy to take care of those folks. So if you're living in areas that have volatility with blackouts in the grid, I think of California having issues. I thought Texas having some issues this year. In those western states that's seen a lot of drought, it's caused grid issues. So it may be you need solar generators. Maybe you need more water storage because your sewage tanks may not work. Maybe your water won't pump, so you need to make sure you have a hand water pump. We talked about in a video not too long ago. So you see, each plan is going to look different. I will be honest with you. If you live in the cities and the suburbs where you don't have big yards, you are living, close quarters with someone else, your plans are going to be very hard, and they're going to take some very good thinking. I did a video about getting out of the city, and it's called Learn This Now. It's a few months ago. But you need to plan based on how to get out of the city. Or if you're older, or you're in a situation where you can't bug out, you don't have a car, you need to make sure that you plan to hunker down. You need to make sure you have those plans done. Now, the reason I'm going very vague on this, because your plan is going to look very different from mine. My goal is I have a bug out scenario, I'll have a bug in scenario. Bug in scenario is always more key because all my stuff is here on farm and at my home. But I do have a bug out scenario too. I do have a water plan. I do have a food plan. I do have a grid plan, a solar plan, a propane plan. You need to have each one of those plans that best fits you. So let's talk about some of those plans in depth. I want to mention this too. Watch till the end, because I do have a giveaway that will help with one of these to start your preparedness. Water is huge. You have to have water. Now, we've done a well pump video where we can hand pump our well. We've done videos about water storage. Like I said earlier, we have a water storage solution in the description below. Check it out. It's through Legacy Food Storage. It's just, we really promote their water storage. Their foods may be great too, but I want you to really look at their water storage and how it's set up. We'll also link some of the Amazon versions of that too. But you need to have stackable water. Now, this is one thing I don't like to hear. We will talk about water storage, we'll talk about food storage, we'll talk about putting things up. And I always get the comments of saying, well, we can't do that. We don't have that kind of funds. Well, part of what we do is we have to learn to sacrifice some things. I promise you, if you do a budget, you plan your budget, you will find some kind of waste that you can take and you can put towards water storage. You can put towards other storages that you're needing. Water is key. Without water, you have nothing. So if you live by a lake or creek or running river, or you have a hand pump water well, they may not be a concern for you when it comes to having fresh water. But say you live in some of the areas that does not have that access. Say you live in suburban areas or city areas. Please put up water. Because the first thing that people do when it comes to hurricanes, when it comes to storms, when it comes to government assistance, it's water. We saw in Jackson, Mississippi, we're about an hour and a half from Jackson. That's our capital. They've had water issues for years and years and years. Seriously, 30 to 40 years. And they've not fixed it. Sewage water issues and then pure water issues to drink. They've had those issues and they've not fixed it. So you're relying on a government that didn't fix the problem in the first place to then all of a sudden their issues break down. And now, because of flooding, we have to bring in water. Well, they provide water. I'm not saying that's not the government's job. They should provide water. If you're depending on that, then you've got to go stand in the line to get the water. You've got to go run and get the water. And it gets chaotic. It gets crazy. We've heard situations where people struggle getting water, staying in lines for hours to get that water. Can't flush a commode, can't take a bath. Drinking water and having flowing sewage not in your home is a big deal. Hopefully you have a septic tank and you're not on some of those city options. If you are, you have to find a way to have maybe a portable toilet to be able to go wherever you can to use the restroom. I know that sounds crazy, but it could get that bad. It did in Jackson. They had major issues. But water is key. They brought in tons of bottles of water, but say for instance you didn't have to worry about that. Maybe you had storage water. You see the little gallons and also the little, Aquafina or Dasani bottles. That water it will last for a few months. I think 6 to 12 months is common in some of those bottles. I would challenge you, don't keep them in that. Those bottles are not BPA free. They're not healthy for you. If that's your last resort, then go for it. But ultimately you need to find a water storage container that's meant for water containment. How much water? I would think you need 200 to 300 gallons at minimal. At minimal, 200 or 300 gallons. That's not unbelievable. You can buy 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 35 to 55 gallon drums, stackable units to be able to put that water up. So that's anywhere from 6 to 10 containers that could help you get to that number. Buying one a month to get you to that point, but having that water is like gold. Make sure that you have food sources. Now, I saw a story, and I think one of our viewers shared a story, Miss Cheryl. She shared a story with Oregon, how they are now putting a ban on maybe animal husbandry and also butchering and slaughtering because the animals need rights. Now that just blows my mind. Now, I'm not saying you need to raise your animals in containment. We do not raise our cows or our chickens like big farms. And that could be, I hate seeing things like CAFOs or chicken houses. However, they are feeding the world because a lot of people are not raising their own food. Beside that point, If you cannot raise a rabbit or chicken or cow or sheep to fish or hunt for deer, you need to make sure that you are putting food up. If it's My Patriot Supply, if it's freeze-drying your own through a Harvest Right freeze dryer, if it's growing major vegetable gardens and having some kind of protein with peanut butter or some kind of granola bars. We have done tons of videos on stockpiling, buying food, food preservation, growing your own food, how even smoke and cure our food. We have tons of videos on that. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm just saying you have to put food up. So water and food is key. Now we have a video coming out. Now we've done videos about what to buy at Walmart to start a prepper's pantry. We've got tours of our prepper's pantry. We have a video coming out this week about what weekly buy can you do to build your prepper's pantry on a budget. So it will be coming out later this week. It's gonna be a very, very good video. But we need to be putting food up. I know you hear that all the time, and so many people still does not put food up. I imagine half of Americans does not even have 3 days worth of food put up. That is sad. I challenge you. Food you need to work towards a 3-day supply, then you need to work towards a 7-day supply, then work towards a month supply, then work towards a 3-month supply, then ultimately go to the 1 year, 3 year, 7 year. Our goal is to always have 7 years of food put up. Now I don't tell you that as a brag. I'm saying it took a decade to get to that point of growing to that size, especially with a family of 8. Our goal is also to have animals always on the farm and animal husbandry going and gardens growing. We're growing gardens 15,000 square foot now, where it's 10,000 last year, to make sure we have a sustainable food source that is always providing for us. Maybe your plan is you can't grow gardens like that. Maybe you can grow a little in the windowsill. Then, like I said before in several videos, make sure you're growing herbs and minerals and medicinal plants to add to the food that you are buying and putting up. There's nothing wrong with stockpiling food if you can't grow it, but you need to be doing that. Do not put it off. Just like I said earlier, plan a budget so you can work that into your budget. Everything is getting more costly and it's not going down. Energy is going up. So I know people are tighter on budgets. I'm not trying to tell you to go spend $1,000 a week to build a prepper's pantry. That's the wrong approach, and we don't do that. But I'm saying it may start off with getting 2 bunnies for $15 a piece, and you can now have a female and a male and raise them for food or for selling or for bartering. It may be getting a few chickens to be able to have eggs. You don't want a rooster because it's loud and it cackles and you're trying to hide from that. So you may want to get 5 hens that can lay eggs, and now you have a protein source. It may be simply buying My Patriot Foods or any of those freeze-dried companies that provide those dried foods that last 25 years. It may be buying just 1 bucket a month. It may be buying 2 or 3 packets a month. You can go to Walmart and buy freeze-dried foods in the camping section and just buy 1 meal a month, buy 1 meal a week, buy 1 container a week. You can do it, but you have to have a plan for water and you have to have a plan for food. So this may be one of the biggest that we've seen the most of, and the ones that I've talked about probably the most in the last month, is energy alternatives. You have to decide what is best for you. Here in South Mississippi, you can't have wind power. You can't have certain forms of energy, but we have to look for alternatives. So what we've done is we have 2 gas generators that we keep about 50 to 75 gallons worth of fuel for here on farm. We have a propane generator that has about 350 to 400 gallons here on farm. We also have some little portable tanks if we needed to take that propane generator and some propane away to bug out like we talked about before. We also have 2 other solar options. One is a smaller battery backup, the Pecron, and I've done a video on that, but it's the S1500. I'll link it below. Also, the Blue Eddy is a bigger system that you can add to pretty much be a standby unit for whatever you're needing. It will run all our things, such as all our freezers and our area in our house where we have put those things. Here's what I'm talking about planning though. If you know you depend on a water well and you can't hand pump it out, then you need to make sure you have a solar or propane generator that can run a 240 volt, water well that's got a submersible pump in there. You can't have a generator that doesn't run that. So that's a key. You have to plan for that. If you have, like me, we have about 7 freezers full of meat. Now, we believe in food preservation such as canning, curing, freeze drying, dehydrating, but we also freeze a lot of meat too. So if we have a lot of fridges and freezers, I've got to make sure I've got a propane generator or a solar generator that is strong enough to push that whole part of the house. Now, I've put all those in one area on one junction box on one power panel, so if worse come to worse and I can't run anything else, if I can't run any lights and I'm starting to lose the grid for a long time, my propane's out, what can I do? I can have a sustainable energy alternative with my solar to run that room only, because that would be the most important, because again, that's my food source when I'm talking about my refrigerators and freezers. Also, we milk cows, which makes butter and yogurt, so we keep that also in the fridge area too. So we have to plan for your energy alternative, but don't just say I'm gonna buy whatever I can. You need to have a plan and make sure you're buying what you need for your property. Again, if you live in the cities or you live in areas where a generator like a gas generator, propane generator, you may not have access to keep a lot of fuel and the loudness may bring attention to yourself, you need to look at battery backups or solar backups. Keep those battery backups charged, that way they're ready to go. The Blue 80 and Pecron both work for that. And there's also a lot of other ones too that we don't talk about, but man, there's so many different battery backups now that you can buy. Now, I'm not pushing that to run your whole house. I'm saying it to be an emergency alternative. Energy is becoming sparse, and this is how we've talked about this. This is how they can control you. If you can't heat your home, you can't feed your family, you can't provide yourself water, you are now becoming just owned by the government and the state. You are being controlled because they can manipulate you and whatever they want you to do. If they want you to take an injection or they want you to jump up and down and act like a dog and dress like a clown, they can control that because you're going to be so desperate to have those things. So don't put yourself in a desperate spot. Look at an energy alternative, just like food and water. Money and bartering. I have probably the biggest kickback when I say stockpile cash or stockpile precious metals. This is what I want you to do. I want you to work on your plan. If stockpiling crypto is a good option for you, I have some crypto. If stockpiling cash is a good option for you, if the market falls out, cash won't be worth anything. But until the market falls out, cash will be worth something. And cash will always be worth something. And here's why. Not because I believe in it. Government's not going to allow itself to fail. Let me say it like that. It will fail one day. Currency will fail and they will have to change the money out. We know that. We've talked about that. But until that time comes, say the dollar doesn't fall out and the economic collapse didn't happen, but major EMP happens or major hurricanes or tornadoes hit major structures and you can't use debit or credit cards. You can't use computer bank. You can't use crypto. Cash will be king and bartering items will be king. So if crypto's the deal, if cash is the deal, if precious metals, silver, gold, copper is the deal, you're for instance, if you're investing, I'm not trying to tell you what to invest in, but energy things like uranium, if you're interested in solar, people are investing in solar, uranium, lead, nickel, all those things are going to help build the new solar panels. I don't believe it's going to be the key, but it may be the key for your investments right now. But you need to have every aspect of currency that you can. Bartering is key. If you have animals, if you have vegetables, if you have precious metals, if you have foods, if you have grains, anything that you can barter. I have a video on some of the things that we choose to keep for bartering. Bartering items become worth so much more because commodities are going to be worth a lot when all of a sudden a currency falls. So by having bartering items to be able to say, okay, I can help you here if you can help me here. You may be the bartering tool. You may say, I can fix your vehicle if you can provide me rice and beans. You need to find a way to have currency. I would tell you to be very versatile on this topic. Again, have a little of each of these options because it's never enough. You can never have too much of any of these things. Your goal is to always have 3 to 6 months of savings for sure, in cash or in some kind of liquid form to where you can utilize it. You need to keep some money in the bank so that way it can pay your bills or can have your drafts going so you can live in the home that you have or use the insurances that you have because you never would know what may go wrong. You need to make sure that you have bartering items again to live for longer than a year if you had to. Bartering foods or your bartering needs to be able to work through your community. Being on a budget will help you stockpile cash. Say for instance right now, you're going out to eat once a week or you're eating in town when you're at work. You could save those funds, be able to put that cash up, eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That doesn't sound appetizing, but it's the way to save money. I'm not saying you're going to stockpile cash in a month, but I'm saying you can start putting that cash back. So in 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years, you could have a significant amount of cash put up. Cash will not be king forever. We understand that. But until that time comes, if all of a sudden the grid goes down, all of a sudden we need something to buy something else with. Say for instance a hurricane. During Katrina, we could not buy gas or any petroleum products with any ATM or debit or credit card. There was no way to transact other than cash. And all those gas stations were looking for was, hey, if you got $20, you can buy this fuel. If you got $50, you can buy this fuel. If you got $10, you can buy this fuel. I'm sorry, I'm not taking a check right now. I'm not taking any kind of debit or credit card because our power's down. So don't just say, okay, I'm gonna keep everything in the bank, or I'm gonna keep everything in cash, or I'm gonna keep everything in some other commodity. You need to have a little bit of balance because you may need in the different facet for depending on what disaster or collapse or catastrophe may happen in your area. Last 2 points I want to bring up is safety and security. You need to have a medical plan. If you're on a lot of medicines, you need to double check and talk to your pharmaceutical or talk to your doctor to get those kind of pills done, to get those things put up, to get extra stockpiles of that. Now I know some things you cannot do. I understand that. So you find herbal remedies or you find ways to mitigate whatever you're going through by other forms and fashions. Maybe eating a better diet. Maybe you can start exercising. There's something you can do to help you get through any kind of medical need that you have, even if you can't get those pharmaceuticals prescribed. It may be talking to a telehealth option. It may be looking at places like Jace Medical to have some antibiotics in your stockpile. It may be starting to pile up a new first aid. We have tons of videos on all those options there. Now that's on the medical side. Now what about the safety and security? If you live in an apartment or you live in the city, we've talked about this in the video that we were saying get out of the city, but pretty much if you have to defend your home, how can you defend your home? There's a lot of areas now that are taking firearms and certain calibers away from you. Well, if you don't have those things, which I believe you need to try to get those, but if you don't have those, do you have a baton? Do you have some kind of training for self-defense? Do you have a bat? Do you have some kind of knife, some kind of machete, something to take care of you or your family? Or are you just a sitting duck? For us, we know Ishinru karate, we know Hapkido karate. Me and Aiden have trained for years in that. Also, we've got great self-defense mechanisms that do very well for us in our home. We've set our home up around that and for that reason, to make sure we can protect our home. Now, we're not going to go over those on YouTube, but what I am saying is you have to have a plan to secure your home or secure yourself to get out of your home to get to safety. Bug in, hunkering down, know your protection plan. Bug out survival. Wherever you're going, make sure you have a place to go and how to get there. These things can make us stress. That's okay. Some stress and some worry is not a bad thing. It helps us come back to reality and know that we need to have plans. We need to have preparedness. It's good. But my life is not going to be living in fear. Ultimately, I am a Christian. We believe in Jesus, so we know no matter what we go through that as a Christian, we read our Bible, we're in the Word, we have community in our church. We have a hope to know no matter what we go through, we're going to be okay. If you don't have that, then I believe you need to get that for sure. You need to find a church that can witness to you and give you hope and not so much worry. But what I mean is you can't live your life in fear and worry. You cannot just say, well, I know tomorrow is going to be economic collapse. I know tomorrow is going to be this major catastrophe and the dollar's going to crash. You need to plan for that. You need to make sure you have goals and plans and a setup to get through any of those scenarios. That's what being a prepper is, or having a sustainable, prepared life is. But you can't live every day in fear. You have to know that I've planned it, I'm ready for it just in case. It's almost like insurance. No one wants to use life insurance. No one wants to use fire insurance. No one wants to use health insurance. If you use any of those things, it's not a good scenario. But you have it because why? Just in case. Prepping is the same way. It's an insurance. You need to make sure you have a plan, but hopefully you never have to use it. If I get to be 80 years old one day and everybody says, oh, you wasted your time buying all that food and stockpiling those precious metals and building all this stuff to take care of your animals, you could have bought food for the rest of your life at the grocery store. I hope that's the case. I hope I'm completely wrong. But to know that I had the insurance, to know that that was okay, I'm okay with that, because I hope one day I'm 80 years old and my insurance agent says, well, you wasted all your money on that term life insurance. You didn't need it. Well, that's good, because that means I'm here. So you get it. It's about a security and an insurance that you have. Ultimately, all glory and hope is in Christ. And then here on this earth, while we're here, we got to enjoy it. I enjoyed a breakfast this morning with the kids by the fire, this cool morning, some crisp October morning. Everything is in perspective. Don't you live your life in fear. Live your life with hope, and know that you can put these plans and insurances intact. Now, before we end, as we talked about with survival seeds, we have a giveaway. There is a link in the description. It is a URL. You click on it, it takes you to that page. All you do is sign up. You are signing up for 3 different giveaways of seeds. These seeds are non-GMO, heirloom, and it tells you how to render the seeds on the back after the crop comes in, and how you can put the seeds up for next year. That is sustainable food. Please, even if you live in town and you're growing in a windowsill or on a balcony, please sign up for this, because this will allow you to be in a drawing to get some seeds to start a garden. Gardening is key. Growing your own food is key. It's part of a great start to being prepared, is having a way to grow your own food. If you want to sign up for it, great, and see if you win. If you don't win, there's a link to buying seed, of course. But hey, 3 giveaways, you need to sign up for those right now.